But we're only a few days into the new year, and already I've got some landscape photos that I'm incredibly happy with. These past few days, North America has experienced some very severe snowstorms. As a photographer, when the conditions are like this, what are you going to do? You're going to grab one of those and go out in it, aren't you? Which is exactly what I did. Now, when I got outside, the idea was to record a little bit of a vlog with my GoPro. I was so into the photography, to the experience, that really didn't happen. And what I did record, I messed up the audio on most of it. So that's why I'm talking to you now before we get into some B-roll and look at those photos. The other thing that I want to just quickly touch upon is gear. My gear for 2025. Now, I really don't like talking about gear if I can help it, but there's a reason why I want to talk about it. Let me explain. My new full frame camera for color photography this year is this. It's a D700 that was launched in 2008. I bought it September 2008. I've had it for 17 years. It's been sitting on a shelf for the past 10 years. The only reason why I stopped using this camera is because I wanted to get into video, so I upgraded to a D750 which had video. From a photography point of view, this is perfectly fine. I used it for my commercial work. I traveled around the world with it, shooting editorial for magazine assignments for brands. I've had full page photos and covers of magazines published using this camera. I've shot 12-foot panels for museums, all with a 12 megapixel sensor. And this is the point of mentioning this, is this past year I've seen a lot of photographers, but particularly landscape photographers and even street photographers actually, moving into medium format cameras and using 100 megapixel sensors. And to me, that is absolutely insane. So I'm being a bit of a rebel and going backwards rather than forwards, because I think camera manufacturers are just pushing us into buying these newer cameras with bigger sensors, and it's just wrong. We don't need them. We honestly don't need them. Part of my goal this year is to prove that you don't need to keep buying the latest and greatest cameras and lenses that all these YouTube influencers keep trying to convince us that we do. It's all nonsense. Actually, no, it's not the end of the rant, because the other thing that I'm doing is I'm using older lenses more and more this year, and I've just picked up this 135mm prime, and it's 10 years old. It's manual focus. I haven't done any telephoto photography for quite a few years because my 70 to 210 2.8 broke about 8 years ago, and I never bothered to get it fixed or replaced when I got into the Z system, because I couldn't justify the cost. I didn't use it enough, and they're big heavy beasts, and I don't want big heavy lenses if I can help it. And I realized that if I do want to do some telephoto work, 135mm is perfect. It's going to do the job. Plus it's f2, so I can use it in low light. And just very quickly, my everyday carry, travel camera when I'm going to be hiking, is still 6 years later, still going to be the camera. The Z52 just came out. I looked at it. It's the same camera with a faster processor behind the sensor. Picture quality is the same. It does everything. This camera does everything that it can do, with the exception of more frames per second and really good auto tracking on eyes and birds and cars. And I don't need any of that because I'm using manual lenses. So sort of pointless. That's it. 6-year-old camera, 17-year-old camera, and a bunch of very old lenses. Gear does not matter. Enough of this nonsense. Let's get out into the snow. I'd already forgotten that I've only got a 135mm lens, so that's not much good for this shot. Let's find something else.
The reason why I was so excited about these conditions is it fits perfectly with my plans, my creative plans this year, particularly for my landscape photography, and same with urban photography, is that I've got bored of traditional landscape photos and street photos, and I want to sort of change things up and push myself outside of my comfort zone, try new things. And what I've decided to do is take a more fine art, abstract approach to my work, particularly landscape photography, which in the past has been very much under the travel photography umbrella, very documentary in style. And I want to completely change that and do fine art, minimalist, and the snowy conditions were just perfect for that. The other thing that I'm going to be doing this year is I've been influenced by the work of William Eggleston. I studied him at college, 40 years ago. I've started to look at his work again in the last year. I never really liked him. I never really liked his work. I thought it was a bit boring, and a lot of people do, but I'm starting to rethink that. And I'm starting to try and embrace the mundane, because I don't travel to exotic locations as much as I used to, because my work has just changed. So I've got to embrace the local boring conditions that are around me. My local towns are pretty uninteresting. The local landscapes are pretty uninteresting. So I'm going to be looking really deeper. I'm going to go beyond pretty pictures and I want to try and create images that mean something, and they're just different. I don't quite know how to express it in words at this point. I'm going to be making videos about it later on in the year, and I'll hopefully figure it out. But the bottom line is, particularly with landscape photography and street photography, I've just got bored of it. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's got their fancy cameras and sharp lenses and are doing all these beautifully, perfectly exposed, sharp photos of scenes that everybody else has shot with nice light and bit of foliage, flowers in the foreground and mountains in the background. You go through any good landscape photographer's website, they all look the same. It's just yeah, I'm sorry, it's just boring the heck out of me. So I'm trying to look at it completely different. How can I, especially for landscape photography, get my mojo back? There's going to be a lot of videos about this year, so stay tuned, subscribe. Let's get back out into the snow again. I want to create some art maybe that I could put on in frames, put on the wall. I don't print my work out. Landscape photography, travel photography, I find those subjects really boring as prints. I like to see them in brochures, on TV screens, maybe in books, but not on a print on the wall. But something that's sort of abstract art, minimalist art, then yes, that's more interesting, I think. So that's going to be a big project this year. So do subscribe, won't you? I'm sure I'll make it out of here alive and be able to make these videos. I was just about to wrap things up and head back to the car, but I've come across these little groupings of trees or bushes. One group looks like a load of antlers. It's very
otherworldly. It's really interesting, and it's got they've got snow on them, and it's, yeah, that's kind of cool. I might be able to do some close-ups of those. And next to it we've got sumac, I think that is, and sumac, red, deep red, covered in snow with a dark background and all this snow coming across. That might make for a great photo too. So let's have a few minutes of fun before I totally freeze. Because I haven't used this camera in about 10 years, 11 years, I've forgotten how clunky the shutter is. Listen to this. Oh, love that. Not exactly stealthy for street photography, but it's too big a camera for street photography anyway. Well, I think I'm done. Gonna go and get some dinner. So appreciate you watching and Happy New Year. Do hope to see you again soon. Cheers.